It was fourth grade. She was one street over. I ran home afterwards. Well, I was pretty excited, titillated as fourth graders get.
In many people's minds, Las Vegas is a city that is synonymous with dazzling lights, never-ending entertainment, and opulence. There is, however, a more tranquil side to the city, a place where people go to find solace and redemption, hidden among the flashing neon and the bustling casinos. A modest church that is tucked away from the glitz and glamour stands out as an example of such a hidden sanctuary. The Hollywood superstar Brad Pitt had an experience that would forever alter the course of his life, and it took place within these unassuming walls. Brad Pitt, who is well known for his rugged charm and iconic roles in films such as Fight Club and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is not unfamiliar with facing the scrutiny of the public gaze. Brad's personal journey, on the other hand, has been one of struggle, introspection, and the search for meaning behind the scenes. It is well known that Brad distanced himself from religion, questioning the rigid doctrines that he was raised with, despite the fact that he was raised in a household that adhered to conservative Christian beliefs. Over a period of time, he lived his life according to his own terms, taking advantage of the fame, fortune, and freedom that Hollywood had to offer. One fateful evening in Las Vegas, however, proved to be the turning point in everything, which was initially intended to be a straightforward visit, quickly evolved into an extraordinary encounter. Having witnessed something that could not be explained, a miracle that defied logic, Brad found himself overcome with emotion throughout the experience. It was almost as if a higher power had reached out to him, urging him to return to the faith that he had abandoned for a very long time. The unanticipated occurrence that took place in Brad's life marked a turning point. An experience that could have been nothing more than a typical evening spent in Las Vegas turned out to be profoundly personal and formative for him. It caused him to question his beliefs and ultimately led to a rekindling of his relationship with God. What exactly did Brad see that caused him to feel such a wave of apprehension? After experiencing a moment of divine intervention, how did one of the most famous actors in Hollywood decide to recommit themselves to their faith? Stay here with us as we delve into the incredible tale of Brad Pitt's spiritual awakening, a journey that demonstrates that miracles can occur even in the most improbable of places. Long before Brad Pitt became a household name, he was a boy from a small town in Springfield, Missouri, who was raised in a household that adhered to conservative Christian beliefs. He was raised by his parents, William and Jane Pitt, who were deeply religious, and their faith was an important part of the way they lived their lives as a family. It was customary to attend church on Sundays, to pray before each meal, and to frequently recite passages from the Bible whenever the family got together. Brad's upbringing was heavily influenced by the teachings of Christianity from a very young age. At the Southern Baptist church that his family attended, the sermons were delivered with fervor, and there was a strong sense of community. The principles of perseverance, self-control, and compassion were instilled in Brad by his parents, who were extremely strict but also very loving. One of the most devoted believers in the family was Jane, who frequently led the family in prayer and encouraged her children to have faith in the plan that God had for them. When Brad was a child, he was very serious about his faith. He participated in Bible study, was a member of the church youth group, and even sang in the choir. He was an active member of the church body. As he recalls, he experienced a profound connection to the stories and teachings contained within the Bible, and he discovered solace and direction in the teachings of the Bible. When asked about his childhood, Brad once stated in an interview, "It was a cornerstone of my upbringing." He was referring to his early years. On the other hand, as Brad got older, he started to struggle with questions regarding the rigid beliefs that he had been shown throughout his life. He was left feeling conflicted as a result of the sermons that emphasized sin and punishment and were delivered with fire and brimstone. It was then that he began to ponder the more expansive meaning of faith, as well as the question of whether or not the strict interpretations of the church he attended as a child were the only way to achieve spirituality. The early exposure that Brad had to religion left an indelible mark on him, despite the fact that he had doubts about it. Despite the fact that he moved away from the church, he would carry with him the principles of empathy, kindness, and community that were instilled in him during his formative years. However, he had no idea that these roots would one day play a significant part in his journey towards spiritual enlightenment. The relationship that Brad Pitt had with his faith started to fall apart as he moved from the quiet environment of Springfield, Missouri, where he had grown up, to the hectic environment of Hollywood. Brad, like many other young adults, found himself questioning the profound religious doctrines that he had been raised with throughout his childhood. He was disillusioned as a result of the fire and brimstone sermons that he heard during his childhood. These sermons frequently centered on fear and punishment. Once upon a time, Brad admitted, "I grew up with a lot of that hellfire stuff, and it didn't sit right with me." When Brad was in his late teens and early 20s, he began to rebel against the conservative values that he had been raised with. Within the confines of organized religion, he began to engage in more introspection, looking for answers to the most important questions that life had to offer. The liberal culture of Hollywood, which places a strong emphasis on personal freedom, provided him with the ideal environment in which to investigate new philosophical perspectives. Brad's exposure to a wide variety of viewpoints and ways of life increased as his acting career began to become more successful. The fact that he was surrounded by creative minds and intellectuals led him to experiment with agnosticism and even atheism, further distancing himself from the faith he had practiced when he was younger. As time went on, he began to view religion as limiting, and he began to speculate about the truthfulness of its teachings. According to Brad's explanation, which was given in an interview, religion was something I felt was imposed on me. To discover the truth about myself, I had to take a break. During this time period, Brad was also confronted with personal challenges that called his beliefs into question. He became skeptical of the concept of a higher power as a result of the pressures of fame, failed relationships, and an internal struggle for identity. Through the exploration of alternative spiritual practices such as meditation and mindfulness, he sought solace in the realms of philosophy, art, and introspection. Brad's search for meaning never really came to an end, despite the fact that he had abandoned his faith. In spite of this, he maintained a profound interest in the human experience, as well as the more fundamental questions of existence. On the other hand, he was resolute in his pursuit of his own unique spiritual path, unencumbered by the constraints of conventional religion. Brad is a man who is a seeker of truth, who places a high value on authenticity and personal development. He turned into this man as a result of his period of rebellion and questioning. He had no idea that his journey was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would come full circle in the most miraculous way possible. He had no idea what was going to happen. Over the course of many years, Brad Pitt had lived his life according to his own terms, far from the faith he had practiced as a child. However, there are times when life has a way of bringing us back to the place where we began for reasons that we did not anticipate. This moment occurred for Brad while he was on a trip to Las Vegas, a city that is famous for its bright lights, casinos, and energy that never seems to decrease. In spite of this, Brad found himself in a peaceful church in the middle of the hustle and bustle of Las Vegas, where he was looking for a brief moment of peace away from the noise. A visit was not anticipated at all. On a whim, Brad decided to enter the modest church that he had passed earlier in the day while he was in town for a film project. The church was small and unassuming. He sat in the back pew, observing the small congregation as they prayed and sang hymns. He was drawn to the congregation by a sense of curiosity and the desire for solitude. The events that followed would completely alter everything. It was approximately halfway through the service when a woman stood up and asked the pastor to pray for her son, who was in a critical condition and was not expected to make it through the night. As the pastor and the congregation gathered around the woman and lifted their voices in a powerful, collective prayer, the atmosphere became increasingly tense. The atmosphere in the room seemed to change all of a sudden. Brad remarked that he experienced an overwhelming energy, a warmth that was beyond explanation, that permeated the entire area. After a few moments, the woman's phone began to ring. She responded while tears were streaming down her face, and the words that she heard left everyone in a state of stunned disbelief. Her son had accomplished an unexpected recovery. As his condition had returned to normal, the medical professionals referred to it as a miracle. An outpouring of praise and gratitude erupted from the congregation, but Brad remained motionless as he attempted to make sense of what he had just seen. It was not only the miraculous recovery that left him in a state of shock, it was also the palpable sense of connection, hope, and divine presence that could be felt throughout the room. Over the course of several years, Brad experienced something that he was unable to articulate, something that was more significant than himself. At the conclusion of the service, Brad remained seated, deeply absorbed in his thoughts. The event in question was not merely a chance occurrence. Rather, it was a defining moment that would ultimately bring him back to a faith that he had believed he had abandoned for good. Brad Pitt was left shaken in the most positive way possible as a result of his experience in the church in Las Vegas. For several days, he was unable to stop ruminating on the events that he had witnessed. Something within him had been rekindled, something that he hadn't experienced since he was a child. The miraculous recovery, the power of collective prayer, and the overwhelming sense of divine presence had all contributed to this. This prompted Brad to engage in in-depth contemplation of his life and the decisions he had made. Even though he was successful, famous, and wealthy, he frequently experienced a void that could not be filled by any achievement in the world. After witnessing the miracle in Las Vegas, he came to the realization that the peace he had been looking for might not be found in the physical world, but rather in the spiritual realm. The time had come for him to re-establish his connection with his faith, but this time on his own terms. The first thing he did on his journey was to sit in silence and reflect. In an effort to find solace in the familiar rituals of prayer and worship, Brad began attending church services on an irregular basis. He blended in with the congregation and sought solace in the familiar ceremonies. It was the sermons that centered on love, forgiveness, and redemption that he found himself drawn to. These were principles that deeply resonated with him because of his own lifetime experiences. That was not the end of Brad's actions. In addition to delving into religious texts, meditating, and even having one-on-one conversations with spiritual leaders, he started investigating various other paths of spirituality. It was through these conversations that he was able to reconcile his previous uncertainties with his newly found faith in a higher power. In an interview that was extremely rare, Brad explained, "It wasn't about returning to the rigid faith that I had when I was a child. It was about discovering a personal connection with God that felt authentic and significant," the speaker elaborated. The people who were closest to Brad were also the ones who heard about his spiritual development. His family and friends noticed a change in him, a newly discovered sense of peace and purpose in his life. According to the revelation of a close friend, he is more grounded now. It's almost as if he's finally discovered what he's been looking for since the beginning of his search. Brad became more outspoken about the significance of faith in his life as he progressed further along his journey. In the hope of enlightening others who might be struggling with their own spiritual questions, he did not shy away from sharing his experiences with others. It is never too late to rediscover your faith and find a path that brings you true fulfillment, as demonstrated by his story, which became a testament to the idea that it is that idea. The transformation that Brad Pitt underwent on a spiritual level not only altered his beliefs, but it also had a significant impact on every facet of his life. In the present day, Brad's approach to both his personal and professional lives is heavily influenced by his faith. Despite the fact that Brad was once known for his intense and frequently turbulent lifestyle, he now exudes a sense of calm and purpose that has surprised even those who are physically closest to him. In his relationships, one of the most noticeable changes that has taken place is, in an open and honest manner, Brad has discussed how his revitalized faith has assisted him in mending strained relationships with his family and friends. One of the things that he revealed in a recent interview was that faith taught me the power of forgiveness. Through the application of this fresh viewpoint, he has been able to approach previous disagreements with compassion and humility, which has resulted in deeper connections with the people he cares about. Along with this, his relationship with his children has improved as a result of his efforts to set a good example for them by teaching them the importance of being grateful, being kind, and being resilient. Brad's religious beliefs have had an impact on the kinds of projects he undertakes in his professional life. He chooses films that are in line with his desire to tell meaningful stories that inspire and uplift others, and he becomes more selective in his selections. According to Brad, "I want my work to reflect the journey that I'm on." Recently, he has been playing roles that frequently investigate topics such as love, redemption, and the capacity of the human spirit to develop. Additionally, Brad has shown his support for charitable causes that are congruent with his spiritual beliefs by utilizing his platform. Brad's philanthropy has taken on a more intentional and heartfelt focus, ranging from funding initiatives that combat poverty to supporting organizations focused on mental health and environmental sustainability. Examples of this include funding initiatives that combat poverty. The explanation that he provided was that it is about giving back and making a difference where it matters the most. One of the most significant benefits that Brad has received from his faith is the sense of inner peace that he had been looking for a very long time. According to what he said, "I've learned to let go of the things that I can't control." The concept of faith is not about possessing all the answers. Rather, it is about discovering solace in the unknown. Over the course of his life, Brad Pitt has demonstrated that it is never too late to seek a more profound connection with something that is more significant, regardless of where life may take you. Faith can be a guiding light even in the most unpredictable moments, as demonstrated by his story, which serves as an inspiration to anyone who is searching for meaning. As a powerful reminder that life is full of unexpected twists and turns, Brad Pitt's journey from skepticism to faith is a powerful example. It is a testament to the fact that moments of clarity and transformation can come when we least expect them, that his spiritual awakening took place inside of a humble church in Las Vegas. The story of Brad demonstrates that it is never too late to find peace and purpose in life, regardless of whether you have personally struggled with faith or simply questioned your path. Do you have any thoughts on the remarkable journey that Brad Pitt took to regain his faith? Do you remember a time when you had a profound realization that altered the way you viewed life? We would be delighted to hear your thoughts. Please share your experiences in the comments section below. In order to ensure that you never miss an uplifting narrative, please make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. You are invited to become a part of our community as we embark on additional extraordinary journeys that serve to remind us of the resiliency and power of the human spirit. Continue to be inspired until we meet again.